Hello ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and many people have asked today if I could do a quick updated guide for the Fire Mage given the changes in 7.1.5. Now this is going to be a very rough, quick and dirty guide, okay? Nighthold is coming next week along with a whole host of extra gear and stuff, which is going to change things again. So we'll look at it properly then, but for generally speaking, this is what we're going with. Fire still seems to be pretty much the strongest spec, although Frost is doing quite well. Arcane's likely to be much further up there come the Nighthold. But generally, we've got a whole host of new talents. So what we have is, I'll give you the quick 2 talent setups that generally I'm running right now. This is pretty much your dungeon setup for the most part. So you'll have Conflag like you used to. Shimmer will stick around. Mirror Images has replaced Rune of Power. Now, this can depend on a couple of things about what you want to take, but generally speaking, Mirror Images seems to be better as it lines up now perfectly with our combustion because we no longer take kindling. Okay, so you can take Rune of Power if very specifically you're still stacking cooldowns. The big change that's happened to the Fire Mage in 7.1.5, guys, is that our damage is no longer front-loaded via combustion. Combustion has been nerfed, okay? So what you have now is a much weaker combustion, but they've buffed things like all our other spells so that we do much more damage throughout the course of the fight outside of combustion. So what does that mean? It just means that we don't try and slap everything that we can possibly do into combustion, which was like stacking Rune of Power, banging every trinket, every potion, rings like this. I don't even use this anymore, the Nord Thumb Ring, all into that combustion window. So we do an absolutely huge amount of damage and then we don't do much outside of combustion. Therefore, we reset combustion quickly via kindling. Because we no longer do that, we can actually afford to look at things like Mirror Images and other spells like that. So down here, you can use Flame On or Alexstrasza's Fury. So Flame On is now a passive, so you no longer have that button to press. What it actually does is gives you an extra Fire Blast to go along with. It's very easy to pick up. Once you've played it for a few minutes, you'll be fine. But Alexstrasza's Fury, particularly if you have the legendary that buffs your Dragon's Breath, is extremely, extremely powerful. So Alexstrasza's Fury now means your Dragon's Breath always crits, which makes it a massive burst AoE, and also gives you Hot Streak. You combine this, and in some fights, you'll notice if you look at some logs, like Hellion Mythic, for example, the #1 source of damage on Fire Mages there is actually Dragon's Breath. It's that powerful once you compare those two things up. But that doesn't mean it's shit without the legendary by any means. If you're going to be doing a lot of dungeons and just generally doing big AoE all the time, it's massive, massive damage. I did Karazhan last night in about 30 minutes, rocked Alexstrasza's Fury, and just rocked the place with the Dragon's Breath. So I rock that. You guys can do the same thing. Level 75... I mean, we've lost Ice Flows. It really sucks. I want to point out here, though, while we're on this tier, is that I have the legendary braces, and some people are saying that they don't work without Ice Flows, or you might need to equip something like Norgannon's Foresight in order to make the legendary braces work. I was doing Hellion Mythic last night. That's the most movement-intensive fight in the game, and it was fine. It was absolutely fine. The braces actually proc less, but they're still very much as powerful. Because they do 300% damage and your Pyroblast was buffed in 7.1.5, they still do tremendous damage. I didn't find a problem using them. If you can use Shimmer properly and all that kind of stuff, you're absolutely fine. I didn't miss any procs. So I want to point that out there. The Ice Flow's loss sucks, yes. There are certain fights like Guam where you're positioning properly. They're kind of shitty, but we can get around it. It's not the end of the world. So here, Frenetic Speed, Ring of Frost, or Ice Ward. Frenetic Speed is the only real choice here. Ring of Frost if you need it. Ice Ward, Frost Nova has 2 charges. Okay, I guess. Level 90. A lot of people were bigging up the Flame Strike spec with Flame Patch. Now, it's not really viable in a real-world scenario so far. It's not really working out there. There's been some things that didn't go through with the patch, etc. So I wouldn't worry about it. If you heard about people spamming Flame Strike, or meme spec as most people were calling it, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. You're either going to be taking Living Bomb or Unstable Magic still. Okay, so nothing really lives long enough in the game right now to really benefit from Flame Patch unless you're in really high Mythic Plus, maybe. But really, it's like Living Bomb or Unstable Magic still, the same choices you would have had in the past. So dungeon build, Living Bomb. And then we're taking Meteor. Why not Cinderstorm is probably the question on your mind right now. Well, Cinderstorm is simming as the highest source of DPS, okay, so in the sims. Now, the problem is the sims assume that every single Cinder you cast throughout every single fight, and this is on a very short cooldown. As you can see, mine's 7.9 seconds. That's assuming that every single Cinder hits every single time. That's not always the case. You can get around that. I'm not going to put this down to, well, you're just bad, because I think that's a really cop-out answer. If you've played some really long fights or some really intense fights, we have to move a lot. That's a simple thing. So sometimes your cinders don't hit unless you can get really in the arse of the boss and stay there, which we often can't really do. So just bear that in mind. In which case, a far simpler option, simply put, is to take Meteor, which doesn't suffer from these problems unless your tank constantly keeps moving around, in which case, you know, please tell him to stop dancing or use your Meteor better. 45-second cooldown, which means you can line it up, the third one, kind of with, depending on your crit, you'll see people say you should hold back your third Meteor for the next combustion. If your crit's really, really high, like 65%, you're probably okay to go ahead and just Meteor, and you'll be absolutely fine and dandy there. I wouldn't worry about it too much, if I'm being honest with you. But you can, if you're at lower crit, you can kind of save your third Meteor for the next combustion. But that's down to you. But Meteor is generally the way we go, rather than Cinderstorm. It's about real-world application over Sims. I want to be clear on that. Real-world application over calculated, everything works perfectly scenarios, where, as we know, I mean, we're a player behind a keyboard. Not everything works perfectly all the time. So that's your general dungeon setup. Let's go with what our single target setup is. Generally, you're going to take Pyromaniac, you're going to keep Mirror Images, you're going to take Flame On, and you're going to take Unstable Magic. That's pretty much your only changes when you're doing single target. Is everything works pretty much the same as it used to, but now we have a different opener. So what's the new opener? Okay. Our new opener looks something like this. Another change is that we generally use Potions of Prolonged Power now instead of Deadly Grace. Again, it comes down to the idea that we're not front-loading all our damage into combustion. We're actually spreading our damage pretty consistently over the course of a fight. So it makes sense now why you would want to use Prolonged Power over something like Deadly Grace. So what we would do is we would pre-pot, cast our Fireball at 2 seconds, pop Mirror Images, aim the combustion, and then go into spamming combustion deeps. Yeah, as we used to do. Now, the cool thing is, now we don't have Rune of Power, is we can actually run around freely during combustion. You can actually run around pretty heftily there and have some pretty good fun with it. So you don't need to worry about it too much. You don't have to stand completely still in your rune, and people can't fuck you in combustion with rune anymore, which is pretty nice. And beyond that, we kind of just do exactly the same thing as we always did. Very, very simple. So that opener again, pre-pot at like 3, start casting your Fireball at 2, pop your Mirror Images, set your Meteor to land, pop your combustion before it lands, and then go into sort of insta-cast spells to just drop all your combustion damage there. So nice and easy, nothing to worry about too much. Some questions people might have is, what about trinkets? Trinkets are a big one. Trinkets all got changed in terms of priority. So Wriggling Sinew, which is what I'm using, is actually not one of the worst in the game, but it's one of the worst out of what is currently available. I simply, even with like the 13 trinkets I have in my bank, I don't have the best ones. Because again, we're not front-loading all that damage. We're actually spreading it out. So things like with a lot of passive stats like Arcano Crystal and stuff are actually becoming out way better because they're constantly providing you with a buff throughout the course of the fight instead of like trying to squeeze all this damage into one particular area. So that's, again, it's all about this different mindset that fire mages have. Instead of just like bleh, combustion, it's over the course of the fight. So things like this actually are looking really good now. The Darkmoon card Hellfire, you can see I upgraded mine to 10. It's not one of the best by any means, but again, I just didn't have good trinket choices, such as the way of life. But intellect is worth a lot more to us now. And of course, crit is still very, 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 very good. So you want to be taking things like that. Have our stat priorities changed? A little bit. So crit's still the best, but it's not overwhelmingly the best. That's what you want to take in mind there. It's not overwhelmingly the best. When you're single targeting, haste and versatility are actually really, really, really good. Same with the relics. On that note, the relics. So you can see I'm using the Ignite relics from Guam. But generally speaking, you want the Fireball relics. Tend to work out better for single target, but it's swings and roundabouts. Unless you don't really know this, and I know people want a clear answer, mages have very different stats depending on what they're doing. If you're doing single target, you want things like Fireball reduction, and you want haste, and you want versatility to buff all that damage. However, as soon as we switch over to AoE, our Ignite becomes much more important, and our Mastery shoots through the roof, which means things like Ignite relics can do really, really well, and having a high amount of Mastery will lead you to more damage. So what's the answer, Preacher? Should I get a load of haste, or should I get a load of Mastery? It depends on the content you're doing. Like, for the most part, for the toughest stuff I face right now is TOV Mythic, and that's mostly single target. So you can see I have higher haste, yeah? And my Mastery is now down to 2,000, while my haste is up to 5,000. But on Hellier, I want more mastery. So, because I'm doing a lot more AoE, but I'm still single targeting Hellier. What's the main priority there? That's how you have to consider these things. Yes, I'm doing a ton of AoE damage there, blowing things up, etc., etc. But it's all about getting that balance. Because you can carry 2 sets of gear if you can afford to do that. But what I tend to do is favor haste, because I'm mostly caring about the single target damage. But I don't dismiss mastery out of hand either. I haven't got balls to the wall into like versatility as an example. I mean, the only thing I have with verse on it is this, I believe. This one ring that I swapped out for the Nord thumb ring. But other than that, check your stats and check your weights if you're really on the border of what's going to be best for you. But generally speaking, those are the rules you can follow. If you're going to do a lot of single target, get a little bit more haste and consider some verse. But if you're doing a mix, haste and mastery, kind of favor haste is generally how I look at it without trying to super min-max it, because we do so many different scenarios and we're good at so many different things as a fire mage. That's kind of how you want to roll. Okay, so I hope that covers most things. I hope you got your opener sorted there. It's pretty simple. Nothing, but it's not that different than what we've had in the past. And obviously, if you do the dungeon build, or you're doing any kind of cleave, by the way, you take conflag. So if you're doing something like dragons, take conflag. Like Pyromaniac is a shit talent. I want to point out it's a shit talent. And yeah, that's so. If you're doing any sort of splash in any way, get some conflag going on. Alex Tries Fury, just bear in mind your Dragon's Breath is now part of your rotation and causes you to go into your next flame strike. So that's something you want to bear in mind as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope that helps out. I'll probably revise this in literally like 7 days. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.